So next up, we have the SEO Delusion with John Miller. Let me know if this sounds familiar. So you create a great piece of content. You're really happy with it. It's a white paper, it's a blog entry, it's a visually driven experience. You've considered the keywords, but then an SEO focused marketer, on your team, maybe if you're working with a client, gets their hand on it and runs it through a tool. It says, you need these additional 8 keywords throughout the piece, including it twice in the title. What comes back might work for an algorithm, but just really doesn't pass the sniff test for a human being. You get some artificial results that tell you you're doing a good job, but you haven't made that human connection. That's what we're here to talk about today with John and the SEO Delusion. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good, Bill. How are you?
Good.
Your bar's been raised high. I'm feeling a little anxious about whether or not I can meet up with Natalie and Lauren and Jerry.
You'll do fine. So John and I have worked together for the past 4 years, and I can tell everybody here that you are in good hands with his presentation here. Your charity, just to mention it, is Easter Seals of Southeastern Pennsylvania. And your 30-second bio, you founded Scribewise in 2012. And prior to that, you worked for more than a decade in numerous newsrooms before moving on to PR, public relations, and ultimately becoming a partner at one of Philly's most successful PR agencies. I don't know if you hear my dog barking in the background, but I don't know if that's a coincidence. She hears my boss's voice and starts barking, but we'll see.
Barking or barking?
Barking, not balking. Well, maybe a little both. Anyway, take it away, and I'll talk to you on the other side.
Okay, fantastic. Let me share my screen, and we'll get rocking and rolling here. All right. So thanks, as Bill said. And I hope everybody's enjoying this event so far today. We've had a lot of fun putting it together. And the speakers, I think, so far have been great. I know we have a lot of good stuff planned ahead. My presentation is very much about the idea that we're doing it wrong. And coming from a spot of that I know that we can do this better. I know that I can do this better. But we've kind of lost our way. Our eyes are on the wrong prize. And the tail is very much wagging the dog. I am talking, of course, about the obsession with website traffic and the belief that we need more. Simply increasing your website traffic is the wrong goal for just about every business out there. It's expensive and it's risky. And I feel like we've become trapped by our need to keep score. And the awesome part of that is that now we can keep score, because a couple of decades ago in marketing, you really could not keep score, but now we can because of the explosion of data and the explosion of the internet. So now we can keep score, but we're really not focused on the right metrics, are we? So I'm a big sports fan, and I feel like a good analogy is a football game. And our focus on website traffic is akin to us saying, whoever has the most passing yards wins the game. Now, there's a correlation between having the most passing yards and winning the game, but just having the most passing yards does not mean that you win the game. The ultimate determining factor of whether or not you're successful is who has the most points on the board. Of course, there are some exceptions. Low margin businesses, low consideration purchases, cheeseburgers, socks, t-shirts, whatever, typically require more volume to make the business go. And so SEO does play a greater role there, but I'm willing to say that it should not play as big a role as you've been led to believe. So let's talk about marketing's actual purpose. Our job as marketers is to create warm leads so that sales can get customers. No duh, right? Too often, web traffic, almost always, web traffic does not equal warm leads. They are at best cold leads, and oftentimes they're not even leads at all. They just flit by, take a piece of something, and move along their way. And yet marketers worship the all-powerful God of website traffic. It's time for us to lift our heads up and stop and forget about simply accumulating a huge audience. Our website and all of our marketing initiatives really should be tools for nurturing those prospects into customers. Before people get too outraged, yes, technical SEO still matters. We need to pay attention to alt text. We need to pay attention to meta descriptions. Mobile optimization is hugely important. Title tags and header styles also. We have to avoid intentionally duplicating content. Everybody here knows that. And we have to set up redirects correctly. We have to build the strong foundation for our website. But on the other hand, time is our most precious resource. And do we really want to be spending our days making infinitesimal tweaks and obsessing over SEO? I don't mean to sound like a life coach, but we're here to have an impact in our jobs, right? Marketing's job is to have an impact on the business, not just to operate the machine of marketing. So endlessly tracking and tweaking and obsessing over SEO seems like a poor use of that time if our goal is to be impactful. Speaking of time, let's take a small step back in time and do a brief history of how we got here. This is history that you probably all know, but I want to take just a couple of minutes to provide some context around how we became so obsessed with website traffic. So 25-ish years ago, the internet arrived on the scene as a commercial thing. Suddenly, we were no longer bound by geography. We could reach the entire globe. Customers in Lagos, customers in Hong Kong, and best of all, back in 1995, we were led to believe that it was pretty much free. There was no cost. The internet was free back then. I know that sounds crazy now, but the internet had no cost associated with it to reach all of those customers. These were the early days. AOL dominated, you had dial-up internet, but we soon realized that while everybody was flooding online, everybody was fascinated with this new technology, they still were not finding companies. They still were not finding our companies. We had a ways to go. And so up on the scene came the first search engines, the Alta Vistas, the Ask Jeeveses, if that's the right plural of Ask Jeeves, Go.com. These were not good search engines. They were very bulky. They rarely served up anything useful to people searching the internet, but they are what we had. And that led to phase two of the internet gold rush, because we realized that it was smarter to appeal to those still bulky search engines than it was to sit back and wait for them to figure out that we existed so that we could try to access that global marketplace. And thus, SEO, search engine optimization, was born. SEO is promised to drive traffic to your website. And the basic concept was more is better. There are a billion people out there, billions of people out there online, and all of them theoretically could buy from you. And this worked for some companies. Just like in the gold rush in the 1850s, some people got rich. Some companies were absolutely built on the idea of attracting lots of people to their website, gaming the system to attract those people, and then ultimately selling them something. But the moment for those first movers has moved way past us. And if you still think that there's gold in them our hills, you're going to be as sorry as this guy was in 1870 when his pan was coming up empty. We were trying to fit the internet into our historical notions of commerce. Have a prime location on Main Street, foot traffic would happen by, and people would buy, and more foot traffic was obviously better. SEOs promised foot traffic. However, that foot traffic, appealing to that foot traffic is very much like filling a bucket with a hole in it or multiple holes in it. You have to continually pour water into the top of it, which is what SEOs tell you, right? We believe we just have to get more traffic, more traffic, more traffic, more traffic, and then we'll get a tiny, tiny percentage of those people to turn into customers. So just keep filling it up with water. The problem is water gets expensive and it never really solves the problem. So of course, we can try to fix the bucket. This is where UX comes in, trying to create a pathway for people who arrive at your website to make their way towards a point of purchase. This is smarter, but still expensive. And let's face it, none of us have ever figured out how to patch up all of those holes. So I'd like to acknowledge a very basic fact about the internet. While the internet may be infinite, people's attention is not. So people don't even realize they're going into the top of your bucket and then flowing out the back because they don't think about your bucket. Their attention is fully occupied. And your business plan can't be based on the hope that someday you can reach those millions and millions and hundreds of millions of people and conquer the world, because hope is not a strategy. Hope is a bad way to run your business. So I'm here to tell you that when it comes to especially B2B marketing, the promise of the internet is a lie. Yes, you can reach all the way around the globe, and there is a possibility of that happening. And I'm not one to shy away from a big challenge, but it's just way too hard to do that. And we need to focus on the closer in customers. That's what we need to grab at in the early, where we're at right now. Too often the juice is not worth the squeeze when we're shooting that high. And oftentimes the juice is sour. And that's because everybody on the internet, and I'm including myself, are takers, right? We have to beware of takers. Think about this. When we're online, when we're in a business discussion at work, when we're at home with our family, somebody has a question, we hop online, we Google it real quick, we find that nugget of information, and then we probably close our browser, or we move on and we resume the conversation. We are takers. We are taking that little nugget of information. The idea, SEO is very much built on the idea that all of those random eyeballs are what you're trying to attract. But the idea that those people, especially for a long consideration purchase, will someday become a customer seems just outlandish, at least the way I just described it, doesn't it? It seems outlandish. Do those folks ever become customers? We like to say that the anti-equation of digital marketing is that traffic does not equal conversions, does not equal sales. And yet we get lulled in by the siren's call of SEO. And I understand that because it's tempting to embrace your inner geek, right? There's a really cool insideriness, especially for people who like to tinker with things, like to roll up their sleeves, get their hands dirty, try to figure out how something works. There's also a David and Goliath aspect of this. I think I could outsmart Google. They're the smartest people in the world, but maybe I can outsmart them. It's like a business world version of Dungeons and Dragons. And yet we go down this never-ending hole, this rabbit hole. But the reason that we never get to the end of this tunnel is because of Google's seismic updates to their algorithms over the last decade. Google has made a bunch of changes, you're hopefully aware of them, and their algorithms are designed to combat the idea that you can game the algorithm, because Google has zero interest in being the referee in the SEO game. Think about this from Google's perspective. This entire conference is very much about empathy. Not that Google needs our empathy, but let's think about, put ourselves in Google's shoes. Google wants human beings searching for something online to find exactly what they're looking for. They don't want them to find someone who tricked up the algorithm and stuffed a bunch of keywords in there. They want people to be delighted because that means they will continually use Google. So devoting your entire career or your budget to this idea seems like just a difficult way to go and kind of an unwinnable game. So let's say it again, more traffic does not equal more business. Here's a quick example, actually two, I'm not thinking, and Bill actually alluded to one of them with a client that we were working with, and I'll say it a little more forthrightly, but I won't reveal who they were. We were working with a client, deep B2B technology, very thick subject matter. And we started working with them, put together the plan, put together an editorial calendar, and delivered them our first piece of content, which is a roughly 500-word blog post. Sent it over to them, they loved it, they approved it, they sent it to the SEO person on their team who ran it through BrightEdge, and BrightEdge spit back, you need to put this keyword in here 9 times. A keyword in a 500-word blog post 9 times. There is no way a human being reading that keyword stuffed blog post is going to think, boy, this is a smart company. I really want to do business with these people. There's no way. Fortunately, we won that battle. We pushed back and we got it to a manageable thing. Another example, working with a client that has a platform for dental membership plans, which is a kind of a newfangled dental insurance approach to dental insurance. Their customers are dentists, not patients. Their customers are dentists. So we were in a meeting with their SEO agency, and the SEO agency told us that there's heavy search volume on the phrase, are dental membership plans legal? So we said, and we can rank for it. And we said, great, who's doing the searching? We have no idea, but let's write a blog post. No. The knee-jerk, shallow reaction should not be write a blog post to appeal to the keyword. It should be, let's dig into that keyword. What does it mean? Perhaps we then survey our dentists and the dental community to say, do you know that dental membership plans are legal? Perhaps we find out that it is patients who are doing that searching, and we can create marketing materials for the dentists to use with their patients. But the knee-jerk idea of just writing a blog post to satisfy an algorithm seems very wrong-headed. In short, we need to keep our brains turned on. Just because an algorithm tells us to do something doesn't mean we should do it. We're in danger of becoming intellectually lazy. And when we do that, we risk alienating our customer and potentially losing our customer. So this is kind of a big, scary idea, right? So you're saying, Miller, what I'm hearing you tell me is that I need to go into my CEO and say, great news, we're not going to worry about website traffic anymore. And he's going to fire my butt. But let me tell you, website traffic FOMO is for suckers. And we need to have the conversation at the highest levels of our organizations and talk about this, because FOMO is fear, and we cannot run our companies and we cannot run our marketing departments based upon fear. It's parallel to the social media FOMO that is literally giving millions of Americans clinical anxiety. The correct response when someone says, but we'll lose all of our website traffic, is so what? Because we don't just want a huge quantity of people on our website. We want the right people on our website. We want quality over quantity. What every business needs, restaurants, mid-sized law firms, fast growth B2B SaaS companies, is to build trust, because trust drives the relationship with your customers today. Because as Jerry pointed out with some statistics in his presentation just now, the customer is now in charge of the buyer's journey. They decide when they're going to buy, they decide how they're going to buy, they decide which criteria is important to them. As Jerry said, they're grazing for information, constantly grazing. And they've got hundreds and maybe thousands of choices depending on your industry. And every question they ask you, every time they go grazing across the internet, every question in an RFP boils down to, should I trust you to be my partner? Should I trust you? So we have to build that trust. Marketing's job is to build trust-based relationships. How do we do this? We have to show them that we're putting their needs first. Again, Jerry talked about these types of things. We have to put our customers' challenges and fears in front of our own need to sell them something. We do this through thought leadership content. We can do this by building thriving social media communities where a brand dialogue takes place that we can heavily influence, but can never 100% control. But giving up that little bit of control shows our customers that we trust them and that they can trust us. Because in a trust-based relationship, we have to go first. The customer is not going to go first. You could build that trust through advertising that welcomes and embraces your customers. Focusing on our website traffic, on the other hand, is the antithesis of this approach. It's an inward-facing exercise. We are literally facing the wrong way. Our customers don't care about our website traffic. They want a good experience, and they want some help with the challenges in front of them. But I know SEO is so sexy. When you talk to SEOs, they sound so smart. They throw around jargon. They might drop the names of famous SEOs. But let me tell you, SEO really boils down to guesswork. So it sounds really smart, sounds very science-based, but here's some really basic math that you need to consider when we talk about SEOs. Your SEO agency of 5 people or 20 people or 100 people is probably not going to outsmart the thousands of engineers Google has working on its algorithm day and night. That's pretty basic math. The smartest people in the world inside the Googleplex are probably not going to fall behind your well-intentioned, hardworking, really smart SEO agency. SEOs remind me a little bit of Kremlinologists back in the Cold War, at the risk of dating myself. People sat around eager for every utterance that came out of the Soviet Union, and especially the Kremlin, trying to decipher exactly what it meant and who was on the rise and who was on the wane and what policy proposals could be coming down. But it was all just guesswork. It was all just guesswork. In the end, your parents were right. You don't need to be the most popular. You need to have some loyal friends. Better relationships lead to more business. So if we're not going to spend our days and our hours obsessing over SEO, what do we do? Well, at Scribewise, we don't believe in being prescriptive. We don't kind of say this is the answer. There's no hot takes going on here. There's no one size fits all. But I will say that your content strategy needs to ladder up to your marketing strategy, which needs to ladder up to your business strategy. And oftentimes we see that the biggest gap is between that marketing strategy and that business strategy. And I think the problem is that the C-suite, the CEO, the CRO, and the CMO are all saying the same things, but the words they're using mean different things to them. So we have to create that alignment. So here are some questions that we should all ponder on a regular basis. These are not rocket science, but a lot of times we really just kind of gloss over them and don't spend enough time on them. We should probably do this quarterly, right? So where do we want to take this business? Who are our best customers and how do we replicate them? Where do those customers congregate? Why do they buy? Why do they not buy? What are they looking for? And this is a moment where we can find the value in keywords, because keywords are a useful tool when you use them to generate thinking rather than knee-jerk using them to generate content, because it tells you what your customers are searching for, what their knowledge gaps are. If we can examine those, peel back those layers of what the meaning is beneath those keywords, then we can think about creating thought-provoking content. In the end, we like to say that all of your marketing should be about validation, not volume. The website experience should validate your expertise. All of your marketing activities really should validate your expertise. We need to remove the focus on the top of the funnel traffic and start to pay more attention to the numbers at the bottom of the funnel. And that is sales, because sales drives the business. Sales gets us the bonus. Sales gets us the promotion. Sales makes the business go. Again, that's not rocket science, but we need to make sure we're in alignment. Marketing must be in alignment with sales. Jerry had a couple of great slides about that. And that alignment is critical to figuring out what we need to do. And website traffic really doesn't answer the problem. So thank you so much for listening. And appreciate everybody's attendance today. I might have time for a couple of questions. I know we're just a tad behind, but Cassie, let me know.
Yeah, we can do some questions. So if anyone has questions, please submit them in the Q&A. But I did want to start with one that I was thinking about during your presentation. So if we're not measuring SEO, if we're not measuring website traffic, I mean, we're still going to measure website traffic, but if we're not focused on that measurement, how should we be measuring success?
I think I think there's a tendency for us to say everybody who visits, somebody sets a goal at the beginning of the year for marketing qualified leads, and then everybody who visits the website becomes an MQL. And I know Ashley on our team, who is our director of analytics, is a big proponent of the idea that we have to understand this. Like I said at the beginning, we have to keep score, but we need to figure out, and I think it's different for every business, we need to figure out what are the right metrics for us. We have a client, Heidi White, CMO of one of our clients, is on the B2B panel coming up, and she tracks thoughtful shares from their partners and principals of the content they create. So that's not in any book, but it's brilliant because it's like people are adding meaning, they're sharing the content, the smart content that is created for Navigate. So I think it's different for every business, but you have to kind of dig into your Google Analytics and figure out what is right for you. I hope that's not invasive.
Great, yeah. So Byron asked, this is kind of related, is a better KPI the conversion rate from top of funnel to qualified opportunities, do you think?
I think in a vacuum, I would say yes, because top of funnel is a very amorphous thing, right? So that means different things to different people, to different companies. But qualified opportunities, and then how do you define that? Like that's one of those things that we need to get alignment on between the business strategy and the marketing strategy. What marketing thinks is a qualified opportunity, does the rest of the company think is a qualified opportunity? But I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Great. And Jackie asked, is there value of SEO in uncovering new audiences?
That's interesting. I think I would say I would say not necessarily, it depends on the business, obviously, but not necessarily in driving people you don't know to your website, but maybe in digging into search terms that are important to you. Or, you know, you might see a flurry of people landing on your website, and then as you dig in, uncover that they were searching on a particular term that you'd never considered, or they were which indicated they were from a particular industry you weren't selling to. So yes, but I wouldn't just start to appeal to an audience that I want to go after. I would try to see what's possible first.
Great. And let's do one more question. Do you have any advice for a marketer who's trying to pitch the human first content strategy to an SEO obsessed CEO?
I'm going to go back to what Jerry said on a similar topic. Like, you need to figure out the data that applies to your business, and there is a possibility that you're in the wrong kingdom, but there's plenty of statistics about and we have some of them in our slides between sessions, but there are you can find some statistics about the importance of creating that human connection, and not just focusing on the raw numbers. So I think there's a way to do that. And I'm glad to have a conversation offline with someone, not a sales conversation, but to just try to talk through that if that's helpful.